Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show with local celebrity hosts Steve O and Rene. Sit back each week while Steve O and Rene educate you with live in-studio experts, such as lawyers, doctors, home improvement, and financial experts in their field. Call in and have your questions answered each week at 888-565-1470. Now, here is Steve O and Rene with today's expert in their field.
Good afternoon and welcome to Ask the Expert, where we bring in some of South Florida's finest experts in the areas of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. My name is Steve O, and let me introduce you to my favorite co-host in the world.
Your only co-host.
You weren't supposed to say that.
What's happening, Steve O?
My beautiful co-host, Rene.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful today. Today's Friday, TGIF.
Yes.
Rene and I have been hosting this we've been hosting radio shows for 2 years. We'll be starting 3 years.
I can't even believe it.
I know. If you would like to ask our guest, did I say that? Guest?
I love when you flub.
That was playing, folks. It was in the writing. Anyway, you can call us here at 888-565-1470. And if you would like to watch our show right now, live, go to www.wwnnradio.com. Right there on the home page, you will find on the left-hand side the WNN TV link.
Just click on there and voila, there we are. So let's introduce our first guest, Jack and Gloria Weiss, owners of Weiss Memorial Chapel. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you for having us.
I love the way he talks.
It's one of the finest funeral homes in South Florida. That's what I have to say about that. And we are going to talk about pre-needs a lot today because it's so important.
Yeah, you know what? People don't think about funeral arrangements till it's time.
Right.
And that's not the way to do this, right, Jack?
Well, that's correct. And basically what's happened is that most of us, especially the New York area and New Jersey and Connecticut, were brought up in an area where everybody knew everybody. You walked out at the door, you saw your neighbor, you belonged to an organization, whether it was the Knights of Pythias, the Masons.
That was many years ago. It's not like that anymore.
I love
Right.
Jack uses those big words, too.
Right.
Just saying, it's not
Right.
like that.
And what's happened is that was great where you came from, because all you did was make a phone call. You had an agreement with them. You relied on them. Now we're in Florida. And what happens in Florida? Nobody knows anybody. Nobody has any proof that the person is reliable. And they have to make phone calls because Uncle Harry is not there to tell them what to do. Or Aunt Sadie, I don't mean to be chauvinist. And what has happened down here is people have a death. They go for the phone book, they call somebody up, and before you know it, they could be spending thousands of dollars that they really don't need to.
Is it less expensive pre-planning?
Pre-planning can be less expensive, but the most important part of this is that you know exactly what you're going to do. You would not go in to one of the automobile agencies and say, I'm here, I want to buy that car, and the guy says it's $5,000, it's $30,000.
Right, you shop around.
Yeah, you don't say to them, well, here's the check, and out you go. You don't go into, and I don't want to use certain department stores' names or anything, but you don't go into the department store and take their first price. You may compare it to one of the other places. Unfortunately,
but you know most people don't want to shop around for that because it's a sad thing to have to
it's a sad
to deal
thing,
with.
But you should be aware
You should shop around
that you should know beforehand. Thankfully, I've built up a great relationship with families over the last close to 20 years that I'm down here in Florida opening Weiss Memorial Chapel. Before that, for the last 10 or 15 years before, I attended very many meetings and organizations, and I belonged to some of the healthcare organizations where they have grown to trust my opinion. And I know this is taking a little bit more than what you wanted to get, but
the difference is, though, when someone's dealing with bereavement, which it's got to be so stressful, who wants to have to worry about all this?
That's right. Anybody that has money doesn't have to spend. It's in the bank. It's in stocks. It's in bonds. So if you don't know what you're doing, and then you walk into a place and the guy says it's $10,000 or $15,000 or 5 cents, it really doesn't matter. Most families and most people are not prepared because that money is not there. In the case of any emergency, in our case, we had a water problem. The pipe broke. Did we have the money to take care of that? No, you had to take from the left pocket to put in the right pocket. So you have to be prepared. So pre-planning saves a family money. It also puts them in the position that they know what they're doing. And 3, if they're smart, they tell their children what they did so that if something does happen, which is usually an emergency situation, the children are prepared.
You know, I read somewhere, and I was going to talk about this later in the show, but when someone passes, there are 70 different things you have to do when you're planning for a funeral. In other words, I guess what they were saying is when you're all of a sudden someone passes, you weren't expecting, you've never done any planning. There are so many steps involved for someone who's never, for the layman, I've never had a plan for a funeral. There's so many things you've got to do. It's not walking in and signing your name. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know about the 70 steps part, but there is a lot. Number 1, are you prepared that you have cemetery property? Are you prepared if you're going to have a cremation? What are you going to do afterward? Are you prepared to get the family to come down here? Are you prepared to tell the hospital or hospice that's the funeral home that you want? Do you know that there's certain things with Social Security you need to know about? If you're a veteran, which I know we'll talk about a little later, are you a veteran? Do you have the discharge papers? Do you know what to do if you don't have the discharge papers? That's what we're here
12
for.
Right there. There's 12 of my 70 right
I don't
there.
think there's 70 now. We
Well,
should read that. Is
That's
there
what they were
really?
saying, that there's so
Because
many
that's a
things.
lot.
Right,
No, there are a lot of steps.
There are a
though.
lot of steps. Do you have an attorney? Have you taken your
And why would you
assets?
need an attorney?
Number
For
1 is
estate
what are you going to
planning?
do for estate planning?
Right.
And if you've had attorneys here, you know how important that is. Maybe if you don't have this, and all of a sudden somebody comes forward and says, I want to plan the funeral, and that's not the person you want.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Not every family is like on television where they get along, they get up in the morning, they say we're going to go out
They're not.
shopping, we'll be home at dinner at 6 o'clock. Every family has a
I can see
situation.
that. Where 10 family members come in, you're trying to plan, and everybody likes the idea. One person doesn't. That just screws everything up then.
Right, and that's,
So
again,
that eliminates the problems if you pre-plan.
if you pre-plan it and everything is in writing, this is one of the few steps in life that most people don't do. They know they're going to buy a house. They know they're going to do this. They know they're going to do that. They put aside a funeral plan. And I understand this. This is a very sensible thing. Nobody wants to think about the time that they're going to die or
Right.
pass on.
So at what age do you do that?
You can do it at any age. It used to
Typically.
be that people would wait until their 60s or 70s. Now people do it in their 40s or 50s. Yeah.
I'm still in my 30s. I'm not ready.
I mean, if you look at it like you're going to purchase something,
Don't
if
laugh
you,
at that.
there are families that dealt with me 5 years ago, and I sent them a price quote. Now, 5 years, the price has doubled.
I'm sure.
And of course, the old story is I should have taken it back
Yes,
then.
there's inflation.
I hope I say this right. I don't want to embarrass you, but I spent some time with both of you, and we've spent a lot of time over the last couple months. Because it's so stressful, I feel so comfortable with both of you. That's what I think is really
think that's a big
important,
factor.
Is that the funeral director, you've got to feel comfortable with them. And I'm sure that's not like that everywhere you go.
Well, thank you. I said to somebody, they said, how could you do this? And, I happen to have known the person. I said, my value to you is that I can sit calmly, regardless of what's inside me, and talk to you. It's no use for both of us to be hysterical
It's
and
gotta
not
be tough,
thinking.
though.
So somebody has to be
Well,
in
you have to
control.
be the calming factor.
They are. Both of them are so
Yes.
calming. It's the first thing I noticed when I came over to the funeral home was, God, you guys are just so together. You're just like nothing's ever going to, I mean, I'm sure it bothers you every time, but you know what I'm saying? You've just got this calming factor that if I'm going to go choose a funeral home, that's what I want to be calmed down.
Okay, so should I take down? Should I take some notes? Should I talk to them after the show?
No, that's God
I'm going to do pre-planning.
You know what happens is that in most positions in life, as a person gets older in his business, many times it's time for them to retire. With our business, the older you are, it's like fine wine.
Yes.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, when you don't have the experience. And you remember when you first went into this business and the first time you had to do this, you had to reach for answers. Now you do things so nicely that when you ask a question, or I answer a question, or I meet with a family, I can look back and bring up an example to help the family out.
Years of experience also.
It takes years, it takes time. And I'm very fortunate that I'm a third generation, and my grandfather and father were in the business, so you have a mentor, you have somebody to guide you. And I think every profession needs a mentor to start you off.
Yes.
I totally agree. And we're actually going to talk about some of the things you've seen over the years when it comes to pre-need, the people who didn't plan, because that's what today's show is all about, is how important it is to pre-plan.
So tell us a little bit about Weiss Funeral Chapel.
Okay. My grandfather came over about the 1800s or so, and I guess in those days, I figure we were trying to figure at the time, he was probably 20 some odd years old, and in those days he was like a custom peddler, and he was in charge of what they call a hever kadisha. Those of the Jewish background will understand that was a burial society.
See how he's looking at me?
And in time, well, he would lie. He was Hungarian. He liked blondes and red-headed Hungarian. So in Yonkers at that point in time, there was only 2 funeral homes, and there was a little bit of difficulty with taking care of the Jewish families because they require some extra things that had to be done. So he opened up a building, a small building in those days, and then later on, after my father came in and his brother, they opened up a bigger building and everything, and that's how Weiss Memorial got started, to serve a community, which I think most of the funeral homes, whether they were brought out, sold, merged, started that way. They started out with somebody helping with other people, and some grew very big because they were in Manhattan or Bronx and there was a big Jewish population or Irish population, or it doesn't really matter. That's how most funerals home were. They were family oriented, where everybody knew each other in the neighborhood.
Right, and you cater to all religions.
I cater to all religions for several reasons. One, everybody is the same.
Yes, I agree.
I happen to be of Jewish faith, and I know what to do to help families. But how can you turn somebody down that is from somebody else's religion, Catholic or Protestant or whatever, and they say to you, I heard your prices were fair. Can you service my family? You can't say that to somebody. You can't say, well, I only serve one type of individual. That's
right.
wrong.
You
That's
wouldn't want to
wrong.
limit yourself anyway.
So I know what's so great is you have great prices. You said fair prices.
Yes.
You have great prices.
So tell everybody where you're located.
All right, we're located in Boynton Beach, on Boynton Beach Boulevard, about a half a mile east of 95.
So easy to find.
Very easy
Right
to
off
find.
95.
We're in the process, in the next month or so, we'll have about a 60-car parking lot behind us. And the building accommodates roughly 150 to 175 people, and it's very nice. And if you ever want to take a look or see what it is to make yourself comfortable, coming over and seeing me, you can do that. There's no obligation or anything.
But I thought you make all your clients comfortable, though.
We do.
What are you laughing about, Renee?
I'm smiling.
Okay. Okay.
So guide us through the process, the funeral process of
All right.
making these arrangements.
All right. What happens is, let's go for we're talking pre-arrangement, just to make sure. All right. What happens is that people would give us a phone call. If they're shy about coming in and are not sure about making a decision, maybe they feel there might be too much pressure, they can call me on the phone. I'll be only too glad to take their name and address and send them a proposal. I very rarely, I do not have anybody working for me that's a pressure
No house
tactic.
calls.
No no calls. Nobody will call up and say, I
No, I'm
haven't
saying you
heard
don't
from
go to
you.
anybody's houses to talk to them.
We do go to their house and
Oh, you
talk to
do?
them. Absolutely. But I will not call back and say, well, are you going to make a decision? The price is going to change or things like that. This is not supposed to be a harassment. I only want to deal with families and people that want to come to me, that have confidence in what I'm going to tell them. If they check around, they will see that my prices are affordable and less. In some cases, it's $1,000 or more less, depending on what you
Wow.
want.
That's a big discount.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, of course, if you're extremely well off and wealthy, $1,000 doesn't mean a thing. You know, and I'm sure that a lot of people will say that that's not the case. But that step comes first. First step is the getting together, the contact. I question them on what they want. So what that means is I don't come in and say, all right, here's the book, this is $3,000, this is $2,000. Not everybody wants the same thing.
Right.
People are different. People have different thoughts. I don't want the children to come down. No, I want the children to come down. I want to be buried in the veterans. I'm very religious. All these items have to be taken
They may
advantage
want
of
to be
before.
involved. Mausoleum.
Let's leave it right there for a second. Let's go to break, and
Okay.
we'll pick up on the other side.
Perfect.
Weiss Memorial Chapel has been serving Palm Beach County for more than 40 years. Weiss Memorial Chapel combines a kind, caring atmosphere with the finest service and experience. Weiss Memorial Funeral Home is located in Boynton Beach, Florida, and is independently owned and operated. They are dedicated to serving all of their families and honoring their needs. They are a full-service, independently owned funeral chapel. Weiss Memorial Chapel's concept is to have one low price for everyone and to have one low price for at-need and pre-need funerals. They are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your questions with knowledge and caring. They are committed to providing funeral and cremation services with the highest level of care, compassion, and professionalism to the Palm Beach area. They are proud to offer chapel services in their beautiful 150 occupy setting in Boynton Beach or provide services at any cemetery. Weiss Memorial Chapel, located at 202 East Boynton Beach Boulevard in Boynton Beach. Why pay more when the finest in service will cost you less? Call them at 561-737-0001. That's 561-737-0001.
And we're back with Weiss Memorial Chapel. So tell us the difference in dealing with a family-owned funeral home versus the big companies.
The big mockers.
Yes.
All right, as one person said years ago, you're not dealing with Mr. Blank, name of the owner, you're dealing with a conglomerate, you're dealing with a corporation. When you walk in there, and there are some very nice people that you will meet with, but they are strictly hired to follow company policy, which means that unless it's something really extraordinary, they have to quote you the price, and that's what it is. The prices are pre-printed. Their quotes are from either one of the out of state or in the capital of this state or wherever
From the
main
corporate office.
from the corporate office. They have to make a phone call. Not that they won't treat the family fairly or not that they won't try to do the best they can, but they have nothing to say. They have to follow policy, and if there's something extra, they have to make a phone call, which may have to be bucked up to the second level or the first level before they can come back with a decision.
And you're the first level.
I'm the first level and the only level.
Right, exactly.
First off, when they walk in, as we said previously, the prices are very fair and affordable. So I am less costly than anybody else to start off with.
Overhead's less.
My overhead is less. I planned it purposely that way. The days of having a funeral home that's $8 or $10 million is over with. Yes, there are some very nice places. A lot of them have done away with some of the chapels. A lot of them have taken pews out of the chapel. A lot of them have gone into the catering business. The majority of services are graveside services or at a temple. Yes, there are some services in the chapel. A lot of the conglomerates are concentrating on post-funeral service, meaning they want to have a catering place. So they're more interested and they feel they can make more money having people come back because a lot of people are out of town now.
Right.
And they don't have a place to go. So that's...
Well, they're trying to make more money doing that.
They're trying to make more money. As you said it, which is correct, people don't want to use the chapel for services. So how do you make up for that building that cost them a lot of money? You think of other things, which is fine. It's good business. Everybody should be able...
Listen, if it makes it easier for the families, that's fine.
That's fine. But in the wrong one, they're making more, it's more costly to them.
Right, exactly.
My job is to tell them, there's a catering place down the street. This Rose's Restaurant, they'll have a room there set aside for you. It'll be X amount of dollars for people. Now, if they want to come into my chapel and have a collation, they can do it. I have things set up for them that we can put tables up and they can have it. We are a full-service company, but we answer to nobody other than ourselves and the law.
It's the same thing with you've got a great selection. Sounds weird, a great selection of caskets, but you do though.
Yes.
I mean, I saw the room where all the caskets
You saw
were.
all the caskets?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
Did you pick anything out?
He wanted to lay down in one of them. He said that he wanted to see how comfortable it was,
saw
but
Louis
Steve
Vuitton.
said,
And listen, you didn't close the top?
and I didn't close the top on. I wouldn't do that.
Are your prices better also
Yes.
on caskets also?
Yeah, the markup or what we charge a family is less than what a lot of places are. May not be thousands of dollars less, but it is less. And then on top of that, if a person is a veteran, they receive a discount off of our charges.
Which is what? Tell
Which
everybody.
right now, if somebody calls us and tells us that
Give
they're
me
a
your phone
veteran,
number.
it's 561-737-0001. 561-737-0001. All they have to do is say they're a veteran, and we'll talk a little later about that, and they will automatically receive a discount off of both my services and the casket
That's very
selected.
nice. That's
That is.
wonderful.
Tell us about, I mean, we just got so much in such a short amount of time. Tell us about veterans, burial of veterans.
We were talking about what people need to do. With a veteran, they are, both the husband and wife are entitled to a grave at the Veterans Cemetery. All they need is a copy of their discharge papers.
There's a veterans cemetery here?
Yes,
In Palm
South
Beach, yes.
South Florida Veterans Cemetery. It's on 441, just a little bit south of Montana.
Oh.
And it's your tax dollars at work. It's beautiful. It's, if you can call the cemetery beautiful, it's
I've been
well
there.
maintained.
I've been to a funeral
It's
there.
well maintained, and there will never be a problem. Those of us that are from New York or New Jersey know that when you go to the cemetery to visit your parents or other family members, that it's in bad shape. Or they want like $5,000, which I just had with a family. They were in a state of shock. They wanted $5,000 as an endowment fund for perpetual care. You don't have that here. Everything is taken care of. They provide the stone, they provide the grave, they provide the liner,
Did you know
they
that?
provide the digging of the
Yes.
grave. And in some cases, which we really shouldn't know from, if there is a child that is affected with special aids and has a problem since they were born, there is a place for that child
Wow.
at the
The
cemetery.
government's doing something good.
Wow.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it happens very rarely, and there has to be special circumstances for that to be proven that they have never worked or something of that to that effect.
At that particular cemetery?
At South Florida, veterans, if a veteran passes away at the Veterans Administration, they will pay for the transfer from the administration to the chapel, whether it's a nursing home or the hospital, and there's a hospital up in Riviera Beach, which everybody knows it's a veteran, and they will also provide for the hearse transportation to the cemetery. And in many cases, there's additional charges that are paid, but we have no idea what it is, because some people, some veterans had service-connected disabilities, so that part you have to talk to the Veterans Administration. But it is a wonderful thing because the quality of burial here in Florida, that if you need to purchase ground, it's anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. It's a great savings to
Wow.
a family.
It is.
That's amazing. That's, I mean, I
Well,
really-
funerals are a big expense, and that's why it's so important to pre-plan and pay it off
I
before
mean,
it even
a person
happens.
why would a person not want to pre-plan?
Because they're foolish. They're
Okay.
superstitious. They're scared. However, I have another area in the chapel where I keep my files, and they're called unpaid forms. What happens is you come to me and you say, Jack, I don't want to do this. I'm going to let my children pay for it. If I do this, I know I'm going to pass the next day. Fine. I take all the information. I give the charges to them, and they understand that that charge will not be in effect because they're not pre-planning,
Right.
and I have everything there. So they tell the children, look, I went down to Weiss, and I have everything there. When I pass,
You get stuck with the bill?
you get stuck with the bill.
Basically.
Or they'll take the money and they'll put it in a bank account. Now, unfortunately, the interest in the banks are not what it used to be.
There's
'Cause
no interest.
There is no interest in the interest. So what happens is that disclaimer, like a lot of people would say, I get more money for my interest in the bank. They've come back to me and they've signed a pre-need with me. Yeah, 5 years or even more if you're really up against it. I cannot spend that money. So what happens is if you can't afford a 20 or 25% down payment, you can give me less. Yeah, 5 years, there's no interest to pay it out.
That's wonderful.
And if you forgot it,
So you work with people.
I work with people because the object of having a business is for people to do business with you. So you don't want people to walk
You don't
away
want-
from you.
Right, you don't want to turn people away.
This is such a better way to do business than the big companies. Because I know about the big companies.
I'm taking
I've
notes for
actually
you. I'm
worked
taking
with them.
notes for
You
you.
are? I'm just saying this is just such a better way to do business.
I'm hoping
for
you're a
something-
veteran.
I got one. I was Cub Scout. Does that count?
No.
I got my Weebo badge. I can't believe how fast the half hour went, but you're going to be here again next month. Next time you come in, I want to talk about, you've probably seen so much when it comes to pre-need, people who didn't plan out. And I bet you've got some stories that it'd be really good to share.
Yeah, one of the stories is that they had to go scratch around to get people to give them $10, $100, $50 to pay for the funeral. And they were very nice about it, and I tried to work with them and accommodate them, but they had to go out and ask family to come up
To
with
chip
money.
in.
To
Yeah.
chip in. And that's not good.
Wow, that's scary. Well, you're going to be back here again next month.
Give your phone number again.
Yes.
561-737-0001. That's 561-737-0001.
Now, does your beautiful wife have better rates than you do? Or how does that work?
Gloria has to be the one not to handle the bills with the family. She's very sympathetic. The business affects her emotionally many times, and if she was doing the business with the family, she would practically give away everything because she feels for them.
Well, listen, thanks for coming on. We're going to see you next month in September. And we're going to go to break right now, and when we come back, we have our family law show with John Elias and Katrina. That'll be interesting. You're looking at me crazy.
I'm just looking at you.
Okay. On the other side, we will have attorneys John Elias and attorney Katrina. I don't have her name in front of me.
Okay, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Weiss Memorial Chapel has been serving Palm Beach County for more than 40 years. Weiss Memorial Chapel combines a kind, caring atmosphere with the finest service and experience. Weiss Memorial Funeral Home is located in Boynton Beach, Florida, and is independently owned and operated. They are dedicated to serving all of their families and honoring their needs. They are a full-service, independently owned funeral chapel. Weiss Memorial Chapel's concept is to have one low price for everyone and to have one low price for at-need and pre-need funerals. They are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer your questions with knowledge and caring. They are committed to providing funeral and cremation services with the highest level of care, compassion, and professionalism to the Palm Beach area. They are proud to offer chapel services in their beautiful 150-occupy setting in Boynton Beach or provide services at any cemetery. Weiss Memorial Chapel, located at 202 East Boynton Beach Boulevard in Boynton Beach. Why pay more when the finest in service will cost you less? Call them at 561-737-0001. That's 561-737-0001.
Hi, I'm Steve O with the Ask the Experts radio show. Join my co-host Rene and I every Friday as we interview some of the most prominent professionals in Palm Beach and Broward County. Each week we combine educational information on a variety of topics with a touch of humor and entertainment in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement so you can be more informed. We offer interviews on such topics as family law, foreclosure defense, estate planning, sleep apnea, roof repair, funeral pre-needs, mold and mildew, alcoholism addiction, and even a show that teaches you how to buy a new and used car from one of the top dealerships in South Florida. If you have a business and would like to be part of the Ask the Expert show, contact us at 954-336-3767. Position your company as an expert in your field. Call Ask the Experts radio show at 954-336-3767. Be sure to catch our show every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. or watch our show live at wwnnradio.com and click on the WWNN TV link.
The Law Office of John Elias understands that choosing a family law attorney is a difficult decision. The outcome of your case will likely affect your family's future for years to come. You need to set your mind at ease and call Attorney John Elias at 954-392-1501. Attorney John Elias will be open and honest with you about what to expect in your case and treat you with the respect and compassion you deserve. John Elias's practice has been devoted to family law in Florida for over 25 years. He will be there with you every step of the way. John Elias has offices in Pembroke Pines and Boca Raton. Whether you are thinking about filing for divorce or you are having trouble with child support, relocation, or adoption, you should contact Attorney John Elias for any family law matter at 954-392-1501. That's 954-392-1501.
And we are back. Wow, this is going to be a great show this next 30 minutes.
From a funeral home to
family law. I know. But you know what? You need to know about both, though. Now, I mean, look, what? It's 50% of the people go through a divorce now?
At least.
Is it?
I would say more.
At least.
Anyway, I'm Steve O, co-host Steve O, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Rene.
What's happening?
Yes. Thanks for tuning in today. If you'd
You
like
just
to
sounded
watch,
like Barry White for a second.
I did.
What was that?
If you'd like to watch today's show, go to www.wwnnradio.com, and when you come to the homepage, on the left-hand side of the page, it says WNN TV. Click there, and you can actually watch today's show.
Brought to you by Amp2 TV.
Oh, absolutely. So,
Tell us a little bit about your firm. So why don't you introduce who we have here?
So we have Attorney John Elias.
Yes.
And actually, I met John about 2 months ago, and I actually heard people, I didn't even tell him this, I actually heard people in the office talking about John. And both of them, there was two different clients, I don't remember the day I was there, they were both talking, said, oh yeah, John's just done a great job John's been such a big help, and I'm going, yes, yes.
That's wonderful to hear.
Because we always want to make sure that we have the expert. So I consider John's law firm one of the top law firms in all of South Florida, and he's got great rates. So here you get a big law firm, but you don't have to pay the big rates, and I think that's
very important. And we also have Katrina Arzumova. He didn't want to pronounce your name. So
no
that's
way.
why
Are you crazy?
That's why I was
We
saying.
charge extra for that.
Welcome to the show, guys. So tell everybody, John, where you're located. Where is your office located?
Well, I have my main office in Pembroke Pines at 11200 Pines Boulevard, Suite 200, Pembroke Pines. That's on the corner of Pines and Hiatus, right across Pembroke Pines Mall. I also share space with Karina at 301.
It's Karina, not Katrina.
I said Katrina.
No, and you broke Katrina.
I
It's
thought
Karina.
it was a hurricane. I'm
It's
sorry.
Maybe she is in the courtroom.
That's together. And we both work out of the 301 Yamato Road, Suite 1240 in Boca.
So good, you have offices in both Palm Beach and Broward.
And I also have one in Miami-Dade.
I saw that. I didn't want to
Yeah,
say anything.
yeah.
I saw
So you cover all the counties.
I cover all of Florida. I've had cases up as far as Jacksonville, the West Coast. 90% of my clients are in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. But I do occasionally get a case out of the county.
So if you want a really great attorney and you're in Martin County, it's worth the small drive.
Oh, they drive to you, of course. Some of the attorneys actually go
He's
to
actually
you.
got to drive a window. You just and Corinne, tell us about your office too.
Well, my name is Karina Arzumanova.
I know, I keep butchering your name. It's very
It's
difficult.
all right. It's all right. And my office is here in Boca. I just have the Boca office, and John and I work together on the other office at the other offices as well. My address is in Boca here is the same as John's, 301 Yamato Road, Suite 1240, and I practice family law and immigration law here in
Oh,
Boca.
immigration law also.
Yeah.
Which is huge right now.
Yes.
So, okay, so let's get into some of these emails that
Oh,
we've
I
been
know, we've
receiving.
got-
We got a lot of emails after the
last
last
show?
show,
Great.
yes.
That's good.
So one of the one person wanted to know, what if my spouse refuses to sign the divorce papers? So can you refuse to sign divorce papers?
Okay.
You can, but what happens?
Well, an example, Florida's a no-fault state.
Right. Well,
And I-
explain what that means to everybody.
In Florida, that means that in Florida you can divorce your spouse for whatever reason. You don't like the color of her eyes, you don't like the way she walks, or the way he drives, etc. There's no impediment to you obtaining a divorce in Florida. And I get this question a lot, what if my spouse...
If they don't
husband,
agree to the divorce.
they don't agree, they don't want to sign, well, you serve them. You get them served by a process server or a sheriff. And then once they get served, they have 20 days in order to respond to that complaint. If they don't, then the court enters a default and case is over. So,
So you can get a divorce even if the spouse doesn't sign.
oh yes, definitely.
Oh.
So is that within like that 90-day period? Isn't it 90 days? No, I'm saying that once you respond, but I thought 3 months here that you could be divorced.
No, it all depends, Renee.
I mean, we had the discussion once before. I was told 3 months, but it took me 3 years.
Right,
So-
like I said, some divorces are over in a month. If we have a signed agreement, like we were talking about, the other spouse signs an agreement.
Right, if they both
parties-
agree.
Both agree to all the terms, and that's fine and dandy. Typically, my experience has been a typical contested divorce within 6 to 8 months. However, I've got one in my office now. It's been going on for about 8 years.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other side filed an appeal. They lost the appeal. We're still in what they call post-judgment matters, and it'll probably go on for another year or two.
You know, we got so many emails about custody and
visitation.
and visitation. Is that like a major thing that people have?
Well, I
now?
would think, yes.
Yeah. So is there a specific question, or you just
No,
want
they
me
just
to-
a lot of them just.
How do you divide that up? The custody and the visitation, how does that work?
Okay. Well, we don't use term custody in the state of Florida anymore. We say time sharing and parental rights. So parental rights and responsibility. So what that means is that the court decides on how the parents will be, how the actual time sharing with kids will be divided. And it is presumed that both parents have 50-50 right to spend time with kids, unless there are some sort of circumstances that will lead the judge to decide that kids should spend more time with one parent, not the other. In terms of parental responsibility and the actual rights, the decision-making rights, that's also something that presumably should be 50-50.
How about living arrangements?
Living arrangements.
Right.
Well, the living arrangement is something that will be decided in the actual standard, gold standard that the judge will use as the best interest of the child. What would be in the best interest of that child to live with mom or dad, and
And
usually
typically it goes to the mother.
well, and
Not anymore, right?
We don't.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, not anymore. It's a changed world now. But typically, child will have primary will be living with one parent primarily and spend weekends with another parent.
So what if both are arguing on who's going to get the kids for, I mean, what if they don't? They're fighting about 50-50. Does a judge make that decision?
What do you mean if they're fighting?
Yeah.
If they want to see them more often?
Yeah, like the father wants the children more often. They can't. They want more time with them than just 50-50. Especially, I would think the wives would want more time than just 50-50.
Well, it's something that right now in the state of Florida, judges prefer for couples to go for mediation before they start litigating.
Okay.
So what we would do is sit down with both spouses and mediate, meaning go back and forth and find some sort of middle ground, what would be suitable and happy medium for both. And all that, of course, is put in writing, and it's a standard that both parents have to follow and commit to, a schedule that they have to
Does
commit to.
your firm do mediation also?
No.
Okay, I know there's a collaborative mediation.
The collaborative law,
Yes.
which is, I'm not a member of that.
Okay.
I mean, I do attend mediations on behalf of my client, but I'm not a certified
It's a
mediator.
whole different world. Then.
Different world. You've got to get board certified.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, not board, but certified as a mediator, etc. I am working on my board certification in family law, and hopefully I'll.
Now, when someone comes in your office, I mean, there are people who've never been through a divorce before.
Right.
This is the first time.
Right.
Tell everybody the
Walk
steps
us through,
that
I was
you
going
do
to say walk us through the steps.
All
when
right.
they walk into your office.
What I normally do, Steve and Rene, is I come in. We introduce ourselves. I then let them tell me what's going on. I need to know why you're here. I usually have an idea because my secretaries will prep me. So-and-so is coming in for a divorce, a custody matter, etc. I will let that client speak, usually it's 15, 20 minutes. Let me tell me what he or she's going through.
And that could go on for hours. You said 15, 20 minutes, but that could go on for hours.
Oh, yeah. What I try to do is I try to control the situation because I want to get relevant information and not, a lot of times people get emotional and go
Of
off.
course.
And that's not going to help them or me. So if I see a client getting out of control with emotions, I kind of put a break and I start asking the questions. Now, usually after 15, 20 minutes after I let the client vent, then I start with my questions. How long they've been married, where they lived, any children, has either party work, if they do, the respective incomes, what assets they have, what debts there are out there. And that's
And there's a lot of paperwork to fill out as well, because I remember I had to fill out so much paperwork.
And any divorce, whether contested or uncontested, you petition, of course. If there are children, you have to fill out a form called the UCCJEA. Whenever, you usually have to fill out what they call financial affidavits, financial disclosure, so that's a lot of paperwork.
Wow.
And how do you find out if somebody's not disclosing their finances?
Well, you mean with my client or the other side?
No, the other side. If you're representing a client and the other client is saying that they're disclosing their finances, how do you find out about that?
Well, usually we have what's called mandatory disclosure.
No, I understand that, but not everybody discloses. Not everybody's honest.
Right. What I usually do is, even though I get from the other side their pay stubs, whatever, I subpoena their payroll records. We look at their bank statements. If someone says I only make $2,000 a month, but you're depositing $6,000 or $7,000 a month.
Right, because when you own your own business, a lot of people own their own businesses.
Right. You pick that up right away.
Exactly.
You can subpoena bank records, credit card statements that show the expenditures that person's making. So again, if they say I make $3,000, but you're spending $10,000 a month,
Something's not right.
Something's not being reported. It happens a lot.
Here's another email that we got is, how do you calculate child support?
Okay.
Well, there's statutory guidelines that we use. Florida came up with actual guidelines as to how child support would be received and what percentage of what parent would have to pay. So we use a very simple calculator program that we use to calculate it. And
You think it's fair?
It's the combined income.
it's a combined income that is taken into consideration, and then it is allocated in terms of what parent who was the primary parent who was providing financially. So if husband or if a wife makes $10,000 a month and husband makes $2,000 a month, then she will be paying a greater portion of the child support as compared to his husband, because he's making a lot less.
Okay.
So how do you divide marital assets?
Well,
Is it 50-50 or how does that work?
50-50. Well, first we have to qualify it as to either premarital asset or a marital asset. Now, once we determine a certain asset as being a marital asset, then yes, it is presumably divided 50-50. Whatever income was earned during the course of marriage, or whatever assets were obtained during the course of marriage, presumably divided 50-50. But of course, there are different factors that will sway judge's decision, and those things, such things as a spouse not able to pay alimony, and there's they have to pay a certain lump sum to provide some sort of stable housing for children and a spouse. So things like that would influence marital assets being divided in different way. But yes, presumably it is 50.
Well, let's go to break. We come back. I want to hear about prenups. I mean, I guess you do prenups also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with the money down here in South Florida, I bet that comes up
Yes,
more than just.
quite a bit.
Okay, we'll be right back.
The law office of John Elias understands that choosing a family law attorney is a difficult decision. The outcome of your case will likely affect your family's future for years to come. You need to set your mind at ease and call attorney John Elias at 954-392-1501. Attorney John Elias will be open and honest with you about what to expect in your case and treat you with the respect and compassion you deserve. John Elias's practice has been devoted to family law in Florida for over 25 years. He will be there with you every step of the way. John Elias has offices in Pembroke Pines and Boca Raton. Whether you are thinking about filing for divorce, or you are having trouble with child support, relocation, or adoption, you should contact attorney John Elias for any family law matter at 954-392-1501. That's 954-392-1501.
And we're back. We just started talking about prenups. There's a lot of money down here in South
Yes.
Florida. Are a lot of people getting prenups now?
Yes. there is.
Really?
Yes.
I would think it's very prevalent here.
It is extremely prevalent.
So tell everybody, not everybody knows what a prenup is, though they probably hear it a lot on TV. Just explain real briefly what a prenup is.
Basically, what a prenup is, it defines a party's assets and liability, or usually assets, that they have before they're brought into the marriage, and that they will acquire during the marriage, and that will assets that will increase during the marriage, how the parties will decide, or have decided how they will basically divide those.
Right, so if they get divorced, it's all settled before.
It's all settled before. An example saying, okay,
And it holds up in court?
yeah, if it's properly executed, if both parties read the agreement, understood it, provided what we call financial disclosure, disclosed all of their assets, and there was, and it was done in a timely manner. That means that one party didn't sign it within 5 minutes of getting it. Usually, it will hold up. If it's fair, it's got to be. There's several factors to make sure it's fair. There was full disclosure of everybody's assets, and it was each party had time to consider it and read it. Yes, it will be held up.
So what's a postnup you just mentioned before?
Postnup is very similar to prenup, except it says we're married. An example, we're having problems, and we have decided that if we break up, John gets this, Betty gets this.
Wow.
So while they're married,
Yeah,
they're already like splitting everything up.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Wow.
I never heard of that.
Yes.
Wow.
That's not as prevalent or not as common as a prenup. But I've done,
Interesting.
Yes, but I've done some postnups. Yes, postnup.
Well, what's that show on Atlanta Housewives where the wife has got a lot of money and he doesn't have anywhere
can't
near?
he?
Yeah, and she wanted him to
He
sign a
signed it.
prenup. He wasn't too happy about it.
Well,
though.
you know something? You have to protect yourself.
I know. So does that end up sometimes prolonging the wedding? One of the
Or people canceling the wedding.
Well, I've had at least one instance where I knew that because of the one wife decided not to marry my client who was a dentist because if he presented her with a prenuptial.
Wow.
Well, people see it as like distrust, or they think the marriage isn't going to last.
Right. She felt he was being
Or they just
distrustful.
want to divorce them and get the money.
Well, you know, but
You never know.
But I explained it, like I said, listen, you've got a lot of assets, and you're marrying somebody who doesn't have what you've got, and you've got to protect yourself.
You know, we had a grandparent that emailed us wanting to know, do grandparents have rights?
Grandparents do not have rights unless there is some sort of circumstances that would be in the best interest of the child to have a grandparent involved. And an example of that would be parents died in a car accident and the child is now in foster care. So the grandparent can come in and ask the court to allocate some major rights. And we had a case like that where a grandparent. But if mom and dad if it's an intact marriage and mom and dad are doing a great job and they're healthy and alive, and the grandparent wants to be more involved, but mom and dad do not want grandparents to be more involved, mom and dad can't keep that grandparent out.
Wow, so they really don't have any rights at all.
No.
Wow. Because I actually saw that. I mean, I know of someone that wants to see their grandchild.
And they can't. So they have, now you know they have no legal rights.
Wow.
Okay, so we had another email. Is there such thing as a legal separation?
Yeah.
Not
Listen
really.
where these people are coming from. You know what's going on in their life.
No.
Well,
in
these
Florida,
people are planning their divorce.
right. No, there is really no mechanism for legal separation. You're either divorced or you're separated or you're not.
No, I know. I asked you that last month.
Right. Yeah, no.
So you don't get any like child support in the midst of the whole divorce.
There is one instance which is called an example. Let's say that you're married and you and your husband don't want to get divorced, but you want to separate, but you want support. You can file.
And he
petition.
refuses.
You can file a petition for separate maintenance.
And how long does that process take?
It's I've only done 2 in 27 years. It's a rare. I think in Florida the average is about 2 filings per
I'm
year.
raising my hand because I had to do it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so you're one of the rare ones.
Yes.
And
took me 3 months even to get a court date.
Yes, that's about the time, because you've got to file a petition. The other side has to respond. You file your financial.
Oh, they responded.
Yeah, they responded.
They did.
Everybody files their financial disclosure, and you go to a hearing where the court determines, okay, temporarily, Rene, you're going to get X amount in alimony, X amount in child support. If there's ever a divorce, then that becomes.
And what happens if the husband leaves the state, and then you file for the emergency child support?
What happens
He
if
just like disappears.
disappears?
You get nothing.
That's the court would reserve. Let's say if you are getting divorced, the court would divorce you most likely, and then reserve on the amount of child support and or alimony to be paid in the future.
Right. So it's back support. You'll end up getting back support.
Also, I've had circumstances where the court will, if let's say the wife comes and says, "Well, here's what he's earned typically. Here's copies of his returns," they could impute that income to the husband, saying, "Okay, he's going to pay X amount." Problem becomes you got to fine him.
Exactly.
And if you find them, you can get an income deduction order directed to his employer, where they would take that monetary support out.
Let's have both attorneys give your phone numbers again.
Yeah, sure. John Elias. My phone number is area code 954-392-1501.
Karina Arzamanova, and my office is 561-756-9370.
Okay, another question. Under what circumstances can alimony payments be reduced or even terminated?
Okay. Well, alimony can be reduced. Depends what type of alimony. There's 4 types. You got temporary, rehabilitative, durational, permanent, periodic, and lump sum.
Wow.
There's 5 types, not 4. I stand corrected.
Explain what they are.
Temporary is during the pendency of a divorce. A spouse says, "I need temporary support." The court will adjust an amount until the final hearing. Rehabilitative is where a spouse says, "Okay, I need to go back to school to rehabilitate myself." The court would then provide a limited period of time, a limited amount of alimony to allow that spouse
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that.
to get re-qualified for the job market. You've got durational alimony, which is a alimony for for marriages under 15 years, from 7 to 15 years, 16 years approximately, and that can go up to the duration of marriage, but not that long. You got permanent periodic, where a marriage of over 17 years, where there's a huge discrepancy in income between the parties, and then the recipient spouse gets it for life. Terminates upon her remarriage or death, or
Living arrangements, if she's living with somebody, or he is.
If you can prove that the recipient spouse is living with someone, and that person is supporting them, you have to file a petition to modify based on a changed circumstance. It's hard to prove, but you can do it.
You know, I got 4 emails just last week from the show. People want to know, how can they enforce child support? What can be done?
Well, to enforce child support, you have to petition the court, just like if you were to do anything else in family law court. And
Aren't the family law courts really crowded? I mean, with all the family law problems going on, are they just
Well, that's why you
jam-packed?
need great attorneys to handle this for you.
a lot, yeah, they're definitely very crowded, and the decisions sometimes are unpredictable because a lot, like John and I were discussing earlier today, judges' discretion matters a lot in family law cases. So having a good attorney and proper representation,
It makes a difference.
it definitely makes
Don't
a
try to
big
do
difference.
this yourself.
Yeah.
Please. There's so many women I've spoken to. Said,
Make sure
"I
you have a
wish-"
good attorney.
Yes, a lot of women I've spoken to that said, I just went too easy on my ex-husband, but we got a lot of them saying, how do we, I mean, I'm not getting my child support, what's the best way to get it enforced?
And you know, it's really also an interesting question, because sometimes men or women feel very proud and they say, I don't want anything from you.
Okay.
And that's a big mistake, because that child support is not usually, it is not your money. It's not
It's to
money
help
for
to
your
support
well-being.
the child.
Yeah, that money is money that the child is entitled to. So if you're not petitioning the court to enforce the child support, then you're pretty much taking money away from your child,
Yes.
money that the child deserves.
You know, I want to apologize. We had about 10 more emails.
We'll
The
have to save it for
time
next
just
month, I
flew.
know.
Thank you both for coming
Really?
on
Thank
today.
you, guys. 30
I
minutes
know.
went by?
Can you believe it? Thanks for coming. We will see
Thank
them
you.
next month. We'll start off with the emails next month.
We
Thank
have
you.
so many questions for them.
Thank you both for coming in today.
Thank
and
you.
this is, I think, one of the top law firms, family law firms
Absolutely.
in South Florida. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Everybody
guys.
have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Peace and love.
We're out.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show with Steve O and Rene. Tune in every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. while some of the top local experts in their field from Broward and Palm Beach counties educate you in the areas of law, health, financial, and home improvement. You can also call our offices at 888-574-6999 to become an expert on our show. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those